Welcome to our channel. Today we will discuss the incredible story of the release of Andrew Tate. Let's get started. Andrew Tate, a name synonymous with controversy, has once again dominated headlines across the globe. Known for his brash demeanor, polarizing opinions, and massive social media presence, Tate has always been a figure that stirs the pot. But in late 2022, his story took a dramatic turn when he was arrested in Romania on charges that sent shockwaves through both his supporters and detractors. Fast forward to 2024, and Tate's release from detention has sparked yet another round of intense debate, speculation, and analysis. This piece delves into the events leading up to his arrest, the legal proceedings that followed, his eventual release, and the broader implications of this saga. Who is Andrew Tate? Before diving into the details of his legal troubles, it's important to understand who Andrew Tate is and why his arrest and release have garnered so much attention. Born Emery Andrew Tate III, on December 1, 1986, in Washington, D.C., Tate is the son of a chess master and a British mother. He moved to the United Kingdom at a young age, where he would later rise to prominence as a professional kickboxer, winning multiple world championships in the sport. However, it wasn't his athletic achievements that made him a household name. Tate transitioned into the world of online business and social media, where he cultivated a persona as a self-made millionaire and life coach, offering advice on wealth, masculinity, and relationships through his various online platforms. His outspoken and often controversial views, particularly on gender roles, earned him both a large following and significant backlash. By 2022, Tate had become one of the most searched and discussed figures on the internet, revered by some as a truth-teller in a politically correct world and reviled by others as a dangerous misogynist. The arrest. A shock to the system. On December 29, 2022, Andrew Tate, along with his brother Tristan and two Romanian associates, was arrested in a raid conducted by Romanian authorities. The charges were severe: human trafficking, forming an organized crime group, and rape. According to Romanian prosecutors, the group had allegedly recruited women by falsely promising them relationships or marriages, then forced them to create explicit content for online platforms under threat of violence. The news of Tate's arrest was met with a flurry of reactions online. His supporters were quick to claim that the charges were fabricated, part of a broader conspiracy to silence a man who had dared to speak out against the mainstream narrative. Meanwhile, his critics viewed the arrest as a long overdue reckoning, a moment of justice for a man whose views on women were seen as deeply troubling. In the days following the arrest, details began to emerge about the investigation. Romanian authorities revealed that the investigation had been ongoing for several months, triggered by reports from several women who claimed that they had been lured into working for Tate's online businesses under false pretenses and were then coerced into performing in explicit videos. The Romanian Directorate for Investigating Organized Crime and Terrorism, DIICOT, conducted raids on multiple properties associated with Tate, seizing computers, phones, and other evidence. The allegations were serious, and the potential consequences for Tate were dire. Romanian law allows for suspects to be held in pre-trial detention for up to 180 days without formal charges, provided that the court deems it necessary to prevent flight, tampering with evidence, or other forms of obstruction. As such, Tate and his brother were placed in detention while the investigation continued. Legal proceedings. A battle of narratives. From the moment of his arrest, Tate's legal team began to push back against the charges, claiming that the entire case was built on weak evidence and motivated by political agendas. They argued that the women who had accused Tate of wrongdoing were not victims, but rather willing participants in his businesses who had turned against him for financial gain or personal vendettas. As the legal proceedings unfolded, the case became a battle of narratives. On one side, prosecutors presented evidence they claimed demonstrated a clear pattern of exploitation and coercion. They highlighted the testimonies of several women who described how they were lured by promises of love and luxury, only to find themselves trapped in a cycle of abuse and exploitation. Prosecutors also pointed to Tate's own statements on social media, where he often boasted about his wealth, power, and influence over women, as evidence of his manipulative tendencies. On the other side, Tate's defense team worked to discredit the allegations, painting the accusers as opportunists who had fabricated their stories in a bid to extort money from Tate. They also questioned the legality of the evidence gathered during the raids, arguing that the Romanian authorities had overstepped their bounds in their pursuit of a high-profile target. Throughout the process, Tate himself remained defiant, maintaining his innocence and portraying the case as a witch hunt aimed at silencing him. Despite the intense public interest and media scrutiny, the legal process moved slowly. Romanian courts repeatedly extended Tate's detention, citing the ongoing investigation and the potential risks if he were released. Supporters of Tate organized online campaigns, calling for his release and accusing the Romanian authorities of human rights violations. Meanwhile, critics continued to voice their concerns about the implications of the case for the broader fight against human trafficking and exploitation. The release, a turning point. In March 2023, after nearly 3 months in detention, Andrew Tate and his brother were unexpectedly released from jail and placed under house arrest. The decision to release them came as a surprise to many, given the severity of the charges and the ongoing investigation. However, Romanian courts cited insufficient evidence to justify the continued detention, although the investigation was far from over. Under house arrest, the Tate brothers were subject to strict conditions, including regular check-ins with authorities and restrictions on their movements. Despite these limitations, Tate quickly resumed his online activities, using his social media platforms to assert his innocence and rally his supporters. He framed his release as a victory, a sign that the case against him was crumbling, and hinted at a grand comeback. The reaction to Tate's release was as polarized as the man himself. His supporters celebrated the decision as a triumph of truth over falsehood, arguing that the case had been a smear campaign from the start. They pointed to the lack of formal charges as evidence that the allegations were baseless and that Tate was being unfairly targeted because of his outspoken views. On the other hand, many were deeply concerned by the decision to release Tate. Critics argued that the release could undermine efforts to combat human trafficking and send a dangerous message to those who might be tempted to exploit others. Legal experts warned that the case was far from over and that the release should not be interpreted as a sign of Tate's innocence. Public and media reaction, a divided audience. The release of Andrew Tate ignited a firestorm of debate across social media and in the press. His supporters, who had been vocal throughout his detention, doubled down on their belief that Tate was the victim of a politically motivated witch hunt. They flooded social media with messages of support, sharing hashtags like #FreeTopG and #JusticeForTate. Some even compared Tate to figures like Julian Assange and Edward Snowden, portraying him as a truth-teller persecuted by the establishment. Conversely, his critics were outraged by the release, arguing that it represented a failure of the justice system. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more fascinating stories and strategies. See you next time.